Dice podcast right now. It's the best show in the world.
And this is the Card Space Up podcast. I am your host, Mr. Ty Hill. Happy New Year, everybody. First and foremost, I hope this new year has reached everybody with the utmost material to just go off and make everything great for themselves with the greatest health possible. Hope everybody's in good spirits. Today, we got a special one over here. As always, every show is special, but it's another real special one. So today we have a guest on this show that many have seen. Many have seen her on, B.E.T show called American Gangster, Trap Queen, season number 2, episode 10, was all about her past life. It focused on her being considered the angel of Harlem, lasting over 10 years in the drug game without getting caught, how she ended up working with the Cartel, and how at one point she was selling $250,000 worth of cocaine a month, right? But that's not where her story ended. That's just where it kind of seemed like it might have ended. And I felt compelled to make sure her story gets the overall haul because this lady is a legend. She's a legend, and we have her on here today. And it's deeper than TV. It's deeper than just a story of showing the negativity. It's a story of negative to positive. What Biggie say? Went from negative to positive, and it's all good, And without further ado, I'm not going to talk y'all head off because New York legend is in the building. Miss Priscilla Echi, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. What an introduction.
Look. I thank you for coming. Again, I told you I wanted your story personally. Everybody that I bring on here is people that I'm interested in, and I know that the world is interested in, and it's people that's bigger. I always say it's people that I feel as though are legends in their own arena. Mm. And you are a legend. I don't know if you know that or if you accept those words, but trust me, you are a legend. So, like I said, how you doing? How's life?
I mean, it's the God in me. And I feel like this, people take a bow. Because if you see that light in me, then that's a reflection of the light in you. So I'm always honored and humbled when people give me this big, because at the end of the day, all of us are spirit. We're spirit, and we come in this body. And I feel like we come here to be loved, and there's titles, and we just are. You know what I mean? I like to say I am. When somebody says, "What do you do?" I do a lot of shit. Excuse my
real.
But
no, ain't no excuse. You can keep it as raw as possible here.
Thank you. Well, God knows I cuss. Thank you, God. So I like to say, we just are. You are the energy you come with. And I'm always honored whenever someone has a big elaborate introduction for me, and it's a reflection of you. So thank you for having me. And I'm honored to be on your show.
That's dope. I got so much. I have way more material to ask you than we probably got time, but I'm not going to hold you forever. I do want to give a quick rundown for those that might not have seen that episode number 10 on the second season of Trap Queen. Give us a rundown of your street, a short rundown of your background of the street, just so they can kind of get a picture.
I started hustling at 13. It was in my family. It was around me. Sometimes you don't have a choice of the environment you come into. And at that time, you don't really understand that you are not your condition to kind of rise above it if that's all you know. Or you come from a restrictive background that kind of forces you to run away from the good things, which is what your parents are telling you to do, and gravitate more towards street life. But I felt like there was such a negative pull in my house that I was going to where the love was. Or well, so I thought. So I like to think. So I started hustling really young. And I was given up at a young age too. My mom signed me away to the streets. My mom signed me away to the state at 14. So that was also intertwined, that school to prison pipeline. I was put onto a PINS petition, which that is a person in need of supervision. And that basically gives the state an opportunity to kind of collect money on your head. and not really give you the necessary resources that you need coming from the background you came from. So a lot of people think it was just me coming up in the drug game. It was a culmination of things, not having dad in the home, mom being too strict, or going through her own stuff to pay attention to what I was doing. And so all I was left with was that street life. And lucky for me, or I like to say, it was the God in me, the prayers my grandmother put over me. I was able to, even though I was in the street, I was covered by the people I was sent to. First, I was covered by my cousin, and he was revered and respected, and nobody really played with him or anything that was his. And then as I got a little bit older and started to meet with partners and connects, then they were revered and respected. Nobody messed with them. And it was a covering for me everywhere I go. But I like to say, God had his hand on me in every one of those situations, from starting at 14, 13, 14, then getting to the 17 to 19-year-old age, and getting more drugs, more money, all of the things that we think is love. Because that's what we're really looking for. Love.
Right.
Love of something. So while I was out there searching for love of something, it became more and more. I just wanted more and more and more. More and more. That was the closest thing that felt like love to me, because I really didn't know. And to be honest with you, it wasn't until I got older that I truly understood what love was, love of self. So yeah, I went through all those phases, being my own hustler, my own boss when I was younger, meeting the right people who nobody played with. Nobody. And them covering me. And then even when I was in bad situations, that was extremely dangerous. And then it was just always being covered from one situation to the next, until I really got to the top of the game, what was considered the top. And I was still covered by God, even in those moments. People focus on the, $250,000 worth of drugs in a month, or they focus on that. And they don't focus on, I was pulled over with a lot of that shit in the car one time. And if it wasn't for the covering on my life, I wouldn't be here talking to cars face out. So
dope.
I'm extremely full of gratitude. I don't, big up none of the stuff I done. It was there. It was a part of me. I lived a good life, but I'm here to tell a better story now, because I got through it to the other side.
Amen. I love how you said, because you had a friend grandmother. I think that's many of our success stories and many of our backgrounds. And I think one of the comedians today, I think it's Duval, one of them speaks of, having a friend. Black men don't cheat because I had a praying grandmother, all of that type of stuff. But it's just funny because although it's set like a joke, it's so real. I had a praying grandmother.
Look here. I used to wake up to my grandmother's tears waterboarding me. And she used to be saying, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. And I was like, what is this woman? I'm wiping the tears off my face. Like, what is wrong with her? But now I understand what that meant. Because everything she put in me and was praying into my subconscious at that time protected me later. It protected me then, and it really protects me now. A lot of people think love is that when you physically have the person when they're there. But love is what you do to honor them when they're gone. That's love. That's love. And that praying grandmother is underrated, because that has covered me. I got all of her. She shows up in everybody around me. She shows up in everybody, especially in my actions when I'm about tired of somebody being in my house eating up all my food. You got to go. Okay?
Real.
Where you go. And she's loving you, send you with a Tupperware and all that. Here you go. But you got to look here. Okay? I love you. All right.
So I love it's so much about you that I love. one of the slickest things I think about you is the, your gift with words. And your gift, I've watched a lot of you beyond just that episode, you know, just doing my homework or watching certain interviews you've done and things of the sort. Your way of putting words together and making certain quotes, you know, and something that stands out most to me about you is the way you put those quotes together and you come up with some dope saying. And I don't even know if you remember all of them because I could see your mind kind of racing as you're doing it. And I'm like, you're so fly with it, you know.
Sometimes it just, you in the moment. I like to be present. Speaking of which,
you have one
book called The Power of Now. And I like to be present. So I never really always remember what I said until someone regurgitates it back to me.
Well, you have one that's loss is the prerequisite of gaining more. And when you said it, I said, wow, that is so deep and dope. And I wanted you to explain that to the audience that might not have saw or might not have caught just how dope loss is the prerequisite of gaining more.
It is making room. My grandmother used to say, you're going to hear me referencing grandma a lot. She's with us, right?
I love it. I love it.
So grandma used to say, you got to give what you can't keep to gain what you'll never lose. And I said, and she wrote it in a Bible that she gave to me. And through the years, I said, what does that mean? What does that mean? There's certain things that don't serve you that you just got to give it away. You got to give it back. You got to put it where it needs to go. You can't take it with you to the next level. So the reason I said loss is the prerequisite to more is because every time I lost something, it was replaced with something that was priceless and that I couldn't have gotten if I would have held on to what I didn't have control over to begin with. Lost. I buried my son, right? God gave me 6 godkids after that and 2 more boys of my own. I couldn't understand the loss at the time. But you ever seen that meme with the teddy bear in the girl's hand? And I think they have like a Jesus on his knees with a big teddy bear behind him, and he's asking her to give me that teddy bear in your hand. Give it to me. You give me that. And I promise you, I'm going to give you double for your trouble. So whenever you lose something, you need to understand that had to go in order for God in you, the God in you, because he's in you, to make room for more. Loss is always the prerequisite to you about to gain something. And that's your perspective. Also, you know, people say, is a glass half empty or half full? I say it's refillable, right? That's in my book too. It's neither half empty nor half full. You can put more in there. You can put more in there. Loss is always the prerequisite to more. And I learned that while I was going through a really dark time in my life. Really, really deep, dark time. And I was asking God, what you doing? God, what we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? And I distinctively heard the God in me, your higher self, we all have it, right? The God in me, I distinctively could hear clearly, if you give me this now, I will give you so much more. Trust me. You got to trust that inner knowing, your higher self, that is making room. And you cannot get what's next if room is not made. Sometimes it's painful room, but it's not pain in order to destroy you. It's pain in order to build you, to increase your capacity. I don't want to go off on a tangent, so I'm going to stop.
Nah, look, you see me sitting here like a student. That's why, look, these are the conversations. These are the conversations that I couldn't wait to have with you, you know, and I'm just blessed to have this moment with you. I promise you that. Last year we lost one of my favorite rappers because I want to get on this because your spirit And again, I believe in energy also. Because you spoke on energy. I believe in energy also. I believe energy attracts. I believe that I can pick up on energy. I was just now speaking to people, and I think they think I'm crazy when I say it. I said, but I'm never wrong about the energy that I pick up. If I don't feel your spirit, that shit, and it drives me crazy if I don't act on that energy that I feel at that moment. It drives me crazy because every time it bites me in my ass when I do not accept what the energy is telling me, what the universe is telling me.
System. That's your inner guidance system, your inner GPS telling you, look here, I'm giving you this because you're out of alignment.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Whatever
I believe it.
you is not good to your nervous system. Step away from the bite. Step away. Step away. And whenever you ignore that, you will continuously find yourself in experiences and situations that you could have avoided if you would have just tuned in to your inner GPS, your inner guidance system. It never fails. It never fails.
Look, trust me, I read up on chakras and things for understanding the body, and I want to get more into it. But last year we lost again my favorite rapper, DMX, and I usually got his cup on me. It's over there, but I usually got his my DMX cup. He's one of my favorite artists. It's right here, one of my favorite artists ever to exist. And I got a chance to meet him and chill with him and actually, have conversation with him and get to see an energy that was just out of this world. It was just out of this world.
He was one of one.
He was 100%, and you had a chance to build a personal relationship with him beyond the entertainment world on a personal level. Y'all were, since you was 14?
Since I was 14. They said 16, but it was since I was 14.
Wow. 14. Now, y'all both coming from Yonkers, which I have funny stories about Yonkers too, because I always laugh and I always remember back to, I don't know if you remember the Mad Rapper that was on the Lock CD, and he was like, what the hell is a Yonkers? Them niggas got their own man. Like, all these niggas in the borough, and she go.
It's true. Yonkers.
You got a chance to see Earl, to know Earl.
That's what I call him.
Tell us what that was. Tell us what that. I know the loss. There ain't no need to explain what the loss was like because the world felt that. How was Earl? What was that relationship?
Man, I know he's watching me right now. Like, yo, you better get it right.
No tears, no nothing.
Earl was an enigma, yo. Like he was unexplainable. Like he was a ball of light. My nickname for him was Beacon. And I found out years later that his grandmother called him that too. He's a light. Wow. He's a light. And I used to be like, Beacon, what's up? He used to be like, what's up? And I used to say, yo, how you doing? What's up, Beacon? What's going on? And he would say, yeah, the light is there. Might get a little dim sometimes, but it's there. And he was just the truth and honesty in flesh. He didn't hide anything, good or bad. Good or bad. He didn't hide anything. And if he did hide something from you, it's because he loved you. But eventually, it will come out. Like Earl was just raw and just God-filled. He was a prophet. I feel like he was a prophet, and prophets ain't perfect. And that's where people get it twisted. They think prophets supposed to be wearing a white robe and, swinging a bell and incense coming out. No, prophets got their own issues of blood. And you don't realize they're who they are until it's too late and they're already gone. But there was nothing about his life that he didn't live out in the open. He was as pure as it got, passionate as anybody could ever be in this lifetime. And this is how I knew he was going to pass away. He came to me in my dream. And normally people that you love and appreciate, and that's been a part of your life for so long, will come to you in your dream before they're going to transition. My grandmother did. I dreamt about my son before my son passed away. Many times you'll dream of people. And I knew he was transitioning because in the dream, he was speaking, but he was just turning his head and he wasn't moving his body. And that's not the Earl we know. The Earl we know is raw, is in the moment, is from one end of the stage to the other. I mean, y'all heard even Jay-Z explain what he was, and then it was like, now you go. And he was like, I'm not going after that. Like Earl was a raw energy that words take away from. He was a beautiful person. He was funny as hell. We could go into a corporate building and he's going to be himself there, and he's going to be the same as we're sitting on the corner on the block together on the chair. And he's going to snap on you. It's one thing he's going to do. And he's going to make a joke, but when he's hurt, you feel it. And he was a man that was not afraid to cry. You know, we have this masculine thing where we tell boys to hold in their tears. And he was somebody that would get on stage and give 150% of what he had. So much so that when he got off stage, he had to lock himself in the bathroom for a minute to get back to normal. It was, he had nothing. He was the definition of give it all you got. And that's where a lot of MCs, they don't have that. They are playing with it. I think for Earl,
I've never seen. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No. Yours is more important.
For Earl, it was important. He was trying to save the younger him and everybody else that was never protected. You get what I'm saying? He was trying to save. That's why he prayed for everybody like that. That's why he would randomly stop and we'd be going to get some fish or some chicken or something, and he would stop and give somebody $1,000, just random. Like that's just what he was. He was raw and he was in the moment, and he understood. Him, Tupac, people like that understood what it meant to be present. They lived in the now. And they didn't care what you thought. They didn't care what you thought. They didn't care what nobody thought. This is me. Take me as I am. That was Earl. Take me as I am. And that's, I'm finally at a place where I could talk about it without crying, because he was stronger than a lot of us now. And it was when he transitioned that we on the inner circle saw how much weight was truly on his shoulders. From all the scattered things that we had to pick up, all of this was on one man. One man. And now that he's gone, I realize how strong he was to hold everything he held on his shoulder. I love him, respect him, and we still love on the kids. We still, do community things. Like I was able to get a bunch of posthumous awards for him. Swiss and them have done so many incredible things for his kids, for the mothers. We have really come together as a collective, and he would be proud. He would be proud. So he is what you see in all of us carrying on now to this day. We're still doing, DMX days and all kinds of stuff. We celebrated his birthday just recently in Yonkers. And his kids are performing. What greater joy is that, to see that legacy pass on? So he was a dope human being. That's who he was.
That's dope. I remember, because we built a relationship with Priscilla. And over the years, and she I remember we sent the people out to the audience to pick us up and tell us come on stage, right? There's thousands of people. We come up on stage and I'm just sitting. I used to be an artist, so it's like shit. I love the stage. Like I loved it. Man, X makes you sit the hell down basically, and you're in awe at the fact this man is out there, and I know everybody heard it. You know, no hype man, no nothing. He's giving it his all. He's sweaty. He literally, and the whole crowd is just mesmerized. But of course, we've seen it on TV. You've seen it from the audience standpoint, but to be on stage and see what he's seeing, it was like, what? Huh, this is that Michael Jackson, people fainting and people are just in awe with what you are. They love you. So you're able to feel protected. You're able to feel, I'm giving you my all. And, you know, if this is where I'm going to die, this is where I'm going to die at. To be able to do that and to command that same audience, whether X was on a stage in a building with thousands or whether he was on a block, like you said, around 3 or 4. You know, my biggest hurt, I think, about the whole passing of X is we did not get to see his moment of righteous teaching in front of. I just knew he was a pastor coming, and I know he's been pastoring all this time. We have the music.
To say that I was about to say, because I felt that same way, but then I'm like, he left us teachings the entire time. I remember something that sticks with me now, which I actually did this year to honor him. He said, instead of wanting gifts on your birthday, give a gift. He would say that, give a gift, give a gift. And I actually did that. And I served on my birthday this year. It wasn't about, and the more I did that, the more people gave me stuff or wanted to give me things. And the funny thing is, as larger than life as Earl was, he was humble. He eat a turkey sandwich with you and go shoot some pool in a white boy bar. And have a ball. We would sing karaoke and have a ball. When I say a ball, a ball. And so not only did he teach us to live in the now, he had been giving us scriptures and quotes all along. He had been giving us teachings all along. And I remember him saying, you know, I want to open a church called the Church of the Afflicted. But God didn't want him to do that because he's like, look what I did with your afflictions. Look who I made you in spite of. So I feel like God didn't want him to focus on that because that's what the world is always more focused on, the salacious parts of your life. And sometimes lies, which are a lot more entertaining than the truth. But we know if you knew him, you knew his heart was golden. You knew his heart was golden. And I was one of those people that never, there's a lot of people around him with their hand out. I never had my hand out. There was always a spiritual connection between us. And it was like my big brother. You know, he's a good, incredible human being.
Continue to shine on, Earl. You know, we're not going to make this moment fully about you, but every moment is still a teaching lesson that you've given us. So we thank you for that, DMS. DMX, rest in peace. Rest in peace to the dog. You know? So Miss Priscilla, let's get on to you. Let's make sure we stay on honoring your greatness. You know, I believe God has a way of sitting us down, you know, and forcing us to pay attention, you know, forcing us to.
We're gonna go there.
Oh yeah, we gotta go there. You know, I've learned more about God in rap songs too. Shout out DMX for that as well than I've learned in church. Not saying nothing wrong with church. I just haven't been a lot. But hip hop has taught me.
We are the church. We are the church. And it's not the walls. Like, and that was his ministry. It was the outside world, the people that the church couldn't reach. How about that?
Amen to that. So, like I said, I believe God has his way of making us sit down, making us listen. And you actually ended up going to jail. But it wasn't for your criminal activities in the streets and things, because if y'all remember, I said she did not serve any time for her criminal activities, and she told you how she's been blessed and covered by the blood of Jesus. You know, tell us why did you end up in jail, and why was that moment so important of God making you? Because I feel like that was your moment of God saying, Priscilla, I need your ass to listen real quick. I need you to pay attention to what I'm trying to give you. And
I'm gonna tell you this. When he finally sat me down, I was surprised he didn't do it a lot sooner. He sat me down when I cared because that's when he had my attention. He didn't sit me down when I didn't care. Well, when you're making all this money and you're doing this, that, and the third, and you have everything you desire, you know, I still was living on the edge and I didn't care. But when I started to care, that's when he sat me down. He said, now I'm gonna get your attention. So when I went to jail, it had absolutely nothing to do with the drugs that I sold in my life. And everything to do with the lack of control of myself. I don't know if we're ready to get that way, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Because somebody gonna need this today. This for somebody. When you have things that convolute everything that you know and all the embellishments that cover the spirit, sometimes God will wait till all of that stuff, all those layers are peeled away in order to grab your attention. And he actually sat me down when I started to do the right thing because I still had the residue on me from where I came from. How about it? So, and then not only that, he gave me back to back humbling moments once he did that. Like I was like, God, are you gonna take your foot off my neck?
Now that I got your ass here.
Oh my God. I was like, what the hell is this? But you know what? That was the only time that I would have paid attention and listened. When I didn't use people and love things. He waited till I started to love people and use things to teach me a lesson, because that's when he had my attention. And that's when I was paying attention enough to say,
that's
okay.
When the stakes was high. The stakes was high. He had
what? And then he played with my kids. What I prayed into existence. And he said, you're gonna have to trust me. You're gonna have to trust me. You're gonna have to trust me because I'm about to show you me plus nothing is everything. This is when you're gonna pay attention to me. This is when you're gonna see that you being obedient is better than sacrifice. And I promise you in this moment that you let go and stop trying to, you tell me Jesus take the wheel, but you still got your hands on it. Now you got to sit down. Now you got to pay attention to me. So after I had already stopped and I lost everything, he sat me down, made me pay attention, made me have to relinquish the control of my kids, which I had never done that in my life. Go through the feeling inadequate as a mom and all those things you say to yourself, like, how am I going to look? Because I used to talk about those women. That was me. How about it? You live long enough, God will turn you into the people that you talk about.
Oh.
How about it? So he did that. And he said, the reason I'm doing this to you is because you're going to have to pour back into the same people. And sometimes he'll do it to you when you haven't finished healing yet. So you'll have to be a blessing to somebody else while you're still going through the same pain over here. He does that to change you, to increase your capacity, to whenever he's preparing you for power, be prepared for it to be dispensed with a certain level of pain, because that keeps your ego in check. When I had everything, my ego was like, I would have cursed God at that point in my life. That's who I thought I was it. But he waited till I didn't have that no more, because now I got your attention. And now you're going to pay attention to everything that I say to you. And as you're paying attention to everything I say to you, now you're pliable, you're moldable, your heart project, because you ain't gonna think too good of yourself, too big of yourself. You ain't gonna think, you ain't gonna talk about that person. I'm gonna send you while you're homeless to go feed the homeless. How about that?
Mm.
You're gonna have to be a blessing to somebody who got the same issue as you. And once you could do that, then I'll know that you're ready for me to lift you back up. You're home.
At your bottom. So it's like stripping you of everything, and for the hopes that I'm gonna really keep my word and give you everything. But how many people really stand there and allow, and this isn't no spiritual.
Not to make them bitter. Because in those moments, you could be like, God, I can't stand your mind. You can say that. Like, let's be honest here. In those
Nobody
moments,
wants to talk truth.
You don't want to kumbaya and sit with your knees folded and incense burning. You don't want none of that. You are like, God, what are you doing? Because I don't trust this situation. Look real hella sketchy to me. Let's be honest. I don't like it. I don't like the people. I don't like the fact that they getting blessed over me and all the stuff I've been through. You know what
I don't like that I'm not in control. I'm not in control. I don't even ride on the back of niggas' bikes when I was young because I wanted to stay in control. So, it's hard.
Then it becomes plan versus purpose. The red or the blue pill.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna stick to the plan and keep your hands on the wheel, or you gonna let go and submit yourself to purpose?
God.
You choose.
So is this where, and in my head, I always come up with I got whole stories in my head about you. It's like we known each other forever. So in my head,
in your head.
when you're in jail, and you're serving your time, this is where I come up with you wrote the turn my pain into power.
It didn't come at that.
It didn't yet. I told you I got my whole story in my head.
Other things, I appreciate high story in your head. I appreciate other things came at that time that I'm doing now, but that didn't come yet because I was still a little angry at my situation. How could you turn me into the people that I talk about? Not knowing that we too are co-creators in our circumstance. And we manifest what we think of. Like I started to think the worst of things at that time. And that's what continued to show up on my path, the worst of things. It wasn't until I cleaned that up. And that's when I started to do the pruning while I was in jail. That's when the pruning came. That's when because you ain't got no choice. You like, what is life gonna look like for me once I get out? I gotta pick up the pieces, and that's a whole nother mental beast when I get out there. What does that look like for me? All of the relationships that I've established, those were all torn down. Because mind you, I was starting to build a lot of the political allies and the people that I started to know and relationships I started to have and doing things for the community before I went to jail. So when I went there, I was double crushed. And then they told me while I was in there that they was coming to take my kids. They had to put me on the suicide floor. Not because I was giving any energy that I was going to take my life, but they know that when they come to deliver that kind of news, even though the reason I was there was trumped up on behalf of, and this is a whole nother segment that we can go into, on behalf of police falsifying a report, police brutality, which is not gender specific, it's not just geared towards men, Black women go through it as well, women in general, but more so Black women, and we're the highest growing population in jail right now. But in that season, it would have been really easy for me to give up. Really easy. Really easy. Because that was a pain I had never felt before. When I say I prayed my children into existence, I prayed my kids into existence. And I had to ask God. I had a moment in jail. Um, the night they told me they were coming to take my kids, right? I had a moment. Um, and I want to circle back to the reason, that I was there. It's learning emotional intelligence because it's really important for us as African American men and women to have emotional intelligence, which will help us to make proper decisions when we get upset. We don't got to have the first or the last word. Sometimes silence is omnipotent and will keep you out of a world of trouble, right? So,
I need to pray on that one.
no, it's true. Silent. Lord, he said, ask God to keep your tongue.
Amen. Look,
Yes.
I
And I
I
don't
go
want to
through
make
it.
this too like preachy, but I understand the significance of God in my life. And at that moment when, you know, he told me that they were taking my kids, I was losing everything. And this is when I started to do things the right way. And I was being asked by God to trust him in that moment when everything looked crazy. I didn't come up with turn pain into power, but the seed of it was planted then. Because I remember the day that I had to go to court, I wasn't supposed to come home that day, but I was tested because while we were downstairs in the holding pen, there was a young lady that was in the holding pen, a white girl, and she's crying, crying, crying. Right? In jail, you stay to yourself. You like,
Yeah.
I'm going through my
Can't
shit
you?
too. Look here, you're gonna have to. I will pray for you from over here.
It's
But
either you stay to yourself or you become a fake ass lawyer. It's either or. It, so
uh,
many niggas want to be lawyers in that.
and God put on my spirit. So you hear the police out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
God blessed me to where I am across from the mayor's office and the police station. So he blessed me to be across from where I was and across from what I now work with. So that's a blessing. So
That's some power right there.
This is real right here.
That's some power right there.
So God put something in my spirit that particular day to pray with this girl. And I asked her, what's wrong? Why are you crying so much? She was like, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to see my kids when I get out of here. Meanwhile, I'm going through so many emotions inside myself. How am I going to fix my situation once I get out of here? What's that going to look like? You want me to pray for her? You want me to pray for her and you got to send me back to county? But God says obedience is better than sacrifice. So if you're a person that's just spiritual, that's one of those things where you get the hunches, inspired action, where your soul, your gut feeling is telling you to do the right thing or do something. And I took her to the side and I prayed with her. And I told her, I said, when you go upstairs, expect a miracle. A miracle is going to happen for you. You're not only going to get your kids back, but you're going to be able to live your life to the fullest. And it's not going to be as hard as you think it's going to be. And I had tears because I was like, God, I'm going through the same thing. Going through the same thing. And in this bullpen, right before we get inside the courtroom, you're making me pray for somebody to get their kids back, and I ain't got mine. What's that gonna look like? But because I love you and I trust you, I'm gonna honor what you're asking me to do in this moment. When I seen her come back downstairs, screaming, jumping, hugging me, she was so ecstatic. She was like, oh my God, I'm gonna see my kids. And I was jumping with her. I was living vicariously through her. I was like, yo, this is so dope. I'm so happy for you. Like, this is amazing. When they called my name, my stomach was in knots. My stomach was in knots. I was like, I didn't know what I was walking into, right? So When I went upstairs, not only did they tell me that they made me sign the paperwork for my next court date and all of that, and for my bail was paid.
Okay, shit.
Yo, what? Like there was so many things that were happening that I was like, yo, God, I know you're real. That was a moment for me where I was like, yo, sometimes God will require you to do for others what you want for yourself. And the moment you do it, that's when you signal to the universe that you're ready. That loss I experienced was a prerequisite to more. And God saying to me, if you let me hold them for a minute, I will give them back to you in way better shape than what it was before. And
Gotta be
my
willing to
kids,
part with it for a second.
listen, my kids are amazing now. My boys love me so much. Like they love me so much. I got one in college. The other one is just an undercover nerd. He's a gamer. And
That's what's up.
I am blessed. I am truly blessed. I got God children that always in my wallet. I love them, but they're brilliant. They're doing
Yo,
wonderfully in school. And sometimes, yeah, you'll be required to do something when you're at your lowest moment, and you will receive your blessings in those moments. And I've received
that's
so much more after that, teaching the kids
that's
I work with and everything.
and that's the story is wonderful. I think that's those are the things that stand out in your story. Why I say you are a legend inside your realm. You have controlled and mastered your realm, and I mean that because sometimes growing up in poverty
Mhm.
and growing up with less or certain dramas and troubles, we destroy our neighborhood.
Mm,
It happens. We consider it a part of the game
absolutely.
because that's all we know.
Hmm.
But everyone that is successful in these neighborhoods or becomes successful in these neighborhoods does not necessarily come back to rebuild what we destroyed.
Right.
And
Mm,
that's something that I think is powerful with you because even during your certain things, we're seeing more of you now, and of course because of the show, and but you've been inside this business of community leadership, nonprofit, outreach for over
mhm.
15 years. That's well over a decade, and I don't remember fully on the show if they pointed that out. I know it got a little quick glimpse, but for
Yeah.
me, I said, nah, fuck that. I have to make sure that it's because I know what it takes. I know
Mm,
what it takes. I quit music and people laugh at me and say, why? I say, because I became a school teacher. Nobody could understand that shit. And I quit school teaching too, but it was like, it was like, I got tired of leading
mm,
people down the path just to tell my story. My story was real. We talk about the streets and things that we've done, but when I start seeing students coming in and they liking my music and shit, and I'm like, oh, I'm a fucking lie now. Like I'm literally, I'm pushing them to my negativity. All I'm trying to do is tell my story. I'm not telling people to go do it, but they can't understand that. They can't separate that. They can't separate the old me and the story I'm telling now. So to see a woman that has done, and that you needed that show. You needed that show to show all of the negativity. I know, of course, we wanted to see the positive, but negative sells. But you needed that for people to go back and see,
mhm.
oh shit, Priscilla is not just the drug seller that they said, or the girl that was with fucking DMX, or with the cartel, or with she's so many facets of Priscilla Echi that it would take 20 shows to show. And I
Mm.
wanted to highlight those things of what you're doing in these communities and what you have been doing for years now. Tell us about the positive rebuilding of not only the negative or the breakdown that Priscilla has done to the community, but her brothers, her sisters, her cousins, her friends, her uncles. All of us have family that has broken down these communities that we call home. But it's only a few of us that's back out there rebuilding these. Tell us about your rebuilding of these.
Well, I think it stemmed back from, again, my grandmother. When I was younger, I used to serve with her. Service was a part of the game, and I think anybody has to serve their way into leadership. You have to serve. You got to be able to wash feet. Because if things break down, you're going to wait for the janitor to come or you're going to get busy. You got to pick up the pieces. So my grandmother and my mom instilled in us the importance of serving. And so that has always been a part of me. It's just once I got through that era of my life and started to go into the transition, I knew that I wanted to do things that revolved around service, things revolving around rebuilding the communities that I helped to degrade, whether it was in New York, whether it's in Miami, whether it's in California, whether it's in Chicago. Wherever I set my feet to do something wrong, I vowed that I would do something right. So I would connect the dots between nonprofit organizations, the celebrities I knew, municipalities, mayors, elected officials, and Fortune 500 companies. And we're going to create real-time transformational programs, town halls, symposiums, and different community efforts, even book clubs and literacy efforts, financial literacy, anything that we can do to break that poverty chain that has been on our communities, that make us make the decisions that we make. My decisions that I made stemmed from not wanting to depend on anybody. And even though my grandparents had a wonderful relationship and a wonderful model for being in a two-parent home, my household itself was separated. So I didn't grow up where I had a father figure or I could talk to my mom. Our parents sometimes are broken by the time they get to us. They give us little nuggets, but sometimes they can't give us the whole thing. So it was up to me not to use that as a crutch and to utilize that as something that I would use to transmute that energy into doing positive things in the community. So it's when they ask me, can you be at this event? Can you help give these things away? Yes, I'm there. Not only am I there I don't need the photo op. You know, I stopped posting a lot of photos of things I do because I don't even care if my name is mentioned. And that's where me and Earl were like this also, is because he would do things and other people would be recording. He wouldn't. That was just his life. And if it's a part of you, it's a part of you. And that has always been a part of me. And I thoroughly enjoy doing what I can to rebuild our communities. Wherever I can get in and get a shovel and dig, I'm there. So, I mean, it's important to me. It's important to be what I needed and to love on our youth and our babies and give them the greatest chance that they deserve. Many of them grow up with adult problems. And it's mainly in our marginalized communities where we have these adult issues. We have food insecurity, housing insecurity. Now that the pandemic hit, a lot of mental health issues that we suffer with. And even as adults, you know, we've had many discussions around that in mental health during COVID, you know, and I'm an advocate for therapy. I'm an advocate for therapy, whatever that therapy looks like, whether you're going to see a mindset coach, a marriage coach, a well-being coach, whatever it is, you must get therapy and empty your bag out. We all walk around with these heavy bags with a bunch of rocks in them, unhealed trauma. And that shows up and manifests itself in the way that we love on each other. So I am very passionate about creating safe spaces that our kids can thrive in, you know, eating healthy, doing healthy things to your body as well as to your mind. So yeah, like I do a lot of community work, and I love nothing more than to see our youth that were maybe, you know, kind of gearing down the wrong path, see that light bulb switch off in their head and them kind of navigate to doing the right thing. I also do mentorship for judges and, well, not the judges, excuse me, the kids that are coming for, there are a few judges out here that are interrupting that school to prison pipeline. And instead of sending your 17, 18, 19-year-old to jail, they're sending them to people like me who have walked down that path, who have been there, and that mentor them, and they shadow us. And, whether it's going into the mayor's office for a meeting, the senator's office, congressman's office, whatever we're doing, or creating the programs, working with the different youth bureaus and youth organizations, we allow them to shadow us and to see what it feels like to do something for someone else who is having the same issue as you. So it all comes.
I love the full circle. I love it. I love the way it all comes back. I got a question real quick.
Sure.
Your education level, what is it?
Well, I got my bachelor's, but I am now going back to school. I've been taking some classes at Harvard, and then I'm going to take a global business and politics class with Yale on the 26th of this month. So I'm excited about that.
Congrats.
I'm an advocate for education, and I serve on several boards for education. OSG, which is Off School Grounds, with the founder Dennis McKeezy and Dame Dash. I'm also with Intellect Prep. Excuse me. She would kill me if she heard me say it like that. She would kill me. With Ken Miller, who's an amazing, brilliant woman who's been through the fire and finally got to open her own prep school, which is amazing. Black woman. And Black Diamonds Academic Success. Several organizations. I also sit on the board of MAID Transitional Services, which we help people who are returning citizens. We do job readiness training in state and federal prisons so that when they hit the ground, you hit the ground running. You have all the tools. You don't have to go here to get things you need. You can come to one spot and get everything you need from, if you're creating a resume to get into the job market, or you would like the skill set that you need to become an entrepreneur, we help you with that too.
So that's sort of like a re-entry type of program.
Absolutely. And somebody who graduated from Harvard recently and went to MIT as well, she just sent me something yesterday where they're doing like a work program in Boston and asked me to be a part of it. And I'm going to end up volunteering for that too. Everybody needs a chance at something. So I'm willing to do the work. And you just got to be willing to do the work, willing to make that change.
I love it. So I know we spoke the other day and you were at the inauguration, city council. I got to watch a little bit of it. That's when I was still sick, so I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did get a chance to watch a little bit of it. So you're into politics, and you were at one point about to run for city council, correct?
So let me tell you how God works. One of the sergeants that was in jail, when I came out, I never thought I would do anything political. I hated politics. Politics, are you kidding me? They talk about it. I hated it. So one of the sergeants that was at the jail that I was at was, I ended up becoming her sister's deputy campaign manager for her federal campaign running for Congress. So that was huge. That was a full circle moment for me again. So that was one of the reasons I came up with that title, Turn Pain into Power. Because that, if I would have stayed stuck in that moment and became bitter and not better, that could have been the end of my story right there. Just like how you say, y'all got an attitude that they didn't show the rest of what is going on with your life. But that was a blessing, because I'm also working on another project with a major network where we're moving forward with that. And then I also have my book, and then I have a script as well. So it served its purpose for what it was. Like it was supposed to tell that, and that's it. You know,
that leave everybody wanting more.
Absolutely. So it was a blessing for me to have that full circle moment, get into politics. And it was like I started to utilize a lot of my connections. She needed help. And at first I came on as an advisor on her team, and within 2 weeks became the deputy campaign manager. And then after that, realized that I kind of had a little bit of a bug for politics and understanding, more so for understanding the law and civic engagement of being
Mm.
involved in your community, right? And getting to know who your councilmen and women are, who your assemblymen and women are, how we can utilize that to make a difference in our community. And then starting to teach civic engagement in with the youth bureau in my community. That pushed me towards wanting to understand politics and policy and how laws are made and how we as individuals can have an effect on those things. So it wasn't necessarily me, wanting to get into politics. It's like something chooses you. However, I knew God was like putting it on my neck. Like he was like, girl, you better get up. I'm putting this on your screen, girl. And I was fighting him. I was like, God, like, what you doing? Like, no, this is not what I want. And again, I had to take my hands off the wheel. It wasn't for me to decide. So even though I didn't run like I planned on running this year, I helped heavily with the campaign. That was, and we have amazing councilmen and women that have won, that are so invested in transforming our communities. And now is when I get a first class seat to the movie. I get to see everything. And then
which in return prepares you even more, if that's it.
If I decide, and yes, I did say that, God. If I decide, he like, nah, not if you decide, I decide. But I mean,
I love it.
If that's what God wants for me, then I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it wholeheartedly.
I love it. Again, just to point out, and I'm gonna let you go very, very soon, in over an hour. But I wanted to, keep praising you. I wanted to make sure some things were seen. That was my point of this. You're not supposed to be in these arenas. You're not supposed to be on TV saying how you alluded being captured for crime and not fucking being captured for crime. You're not supposed to be saying, ha ha ha, I still fucking did it. You're not supposed to, according to the narrative that the world creates. Absolutely. You're not supposed to come about this shit. You're not supposed to, we have a saying as far as building, what's the name of the company? What's the name of the nonprofit? First one of these. When we did the tree, preserving our tomorrow. That's what it is. And because we do outreach and stuff like that too. And preserving our tomorrow, I remember that the most because it was our first. And it's also, I remember it more for what we chose the logo to be. And it was a small tree.
Right.
And we were speaking on how it's easier to bend and kind of manipulate how you want that small tree to grow versus you waiting for the shit to become a big ass tree and you can't manipulate it no more. You can't move it the way that you need it to grow. If it's growing left, it's going to continue to grow fucking left. You're not going to stop it unless you chop it down. And again, I say that to say you weren't supposed to be making these moves in these arenas and having this reach according to the world. And look at you. You're successful. You're beautiful. You're great. You're doing everything that God is telling you to do. And you're walking with purpose. We all stood on blocks and we all did certain things, whether it be selling drugs, robbing niggas, whatever it is. And at that time, we thought that we were living a purpose. We were. Our purpose was to fucking make it till tomorrow. Purpose was to feed the family, whatever the fuck it was. Maybe it just was the purpose of, I wanted to be a loner. I wanted to do things on my own, whatever it was. But that wasn't the purpose that we were sent for. But a lot of people didn't get a chance to reevaluate our decisions. A lot of people didn't get a chance to correct shit. I'm looking at this DMX cup, for instance, and one of the pictures on here is like a jail mug, and I just now fucking noticed it. Like he got a chance to come about that shit.
Well, nothing, I always say nothing happens to you, it all happens for you. Like
Mm.
none of what I walked through, even coming out unscathed, that didn't happen to me. It happened for me. You know,
Amen.
we're talking about this tree, at first, when a seed is planted underground, dark place, mind you, it must first become undone before it grows out of the ground. And when it becomes undone, it's ugly. But to those of us who understand the growth process, we see a masterpiece in the making. We see that that tree with the right amount of fertilizer, the right amount of rain, the right amount of sunshine is going to grow into a big, beautiful tree that bears flowers or fruits or whatever it's meant to bear. So it's just like the analogy that Kirk Franklin used to use about the cake. Everything separately. If you can't just eat a stick of butter, this shit is nasty. You can't just
Mm-hmm.
crack an egg and pour it in your throat. Some people do that for bodybuilding, but you don't do it for flavor.
They don't like the shit.
They don't like the shit. So, all of those things, if you put them in a bowl together, make something that tastes so incredible. And it's the same with the seed. If you utilize all of those things and you put it onto that seed, it becomes undone. But when it reaches out of the ground, it becomes something beautiful. So I needed what happened to me, because now when I go into jail and I talk to people about it, it's believable. I'm speaking with conviction because I've walked through your shoes. I know what it is to kneel on the ground in a jail cell and ask God not to wake me up tomorrow.
I relate. I relate. That's
You
what it
know,
is.
so
Relatability is important.
people get up here and they just want to show you the glitz and glamour, and I want to show you that shit too. I want to show it, but I'd rather talk about the real deal stuff because there's too many people out here that are suffering in silence, and we want to speak to the you that you are not your public deeds. You are who you are when nobody's looking. That's who you are. When them doors is closed and that lights is out, that's who you really are. And we want to make sure that that you is in alignment with the you that's outside as well, and teach you how to transmute anything that was deemed as negative into something that's positive. Channel it into power. A Black man or a Black woman's progress, economic progress, and ability to want political power, executive power, whatever kind of power that you're looking for in this world, you can transmute that pain into something like that and turn your life around. And so, thank you for having me on here.
I thank you so much for coming. Tell the world how they can get in touch with you. Again, y'all, we could have went on for hours. You're such an open book and a beautiful spirit that the conversation is very, very easy. Tell the world how they can just keep up with you. I ain't going to say keep in touch because I think people think I want you to say a phone number at that point.
You can, well, you can reach me. My, you know what's so funny? One thing that I learned is that my phone number is accessible. Not the number I gave you, but another number nonetheless that stays on me at all times.
Gotcha.
Because, I've lost a lot of friends when they didn't have someone to speak to. And so I always want to be accessible in that way. But to some degree, because sometimes you can't always be accessible, but you want to try to be there for people. But how people can get in contact with me? Well, of course, there's my Instagram, how you reached out to me, which is at the City Never Sleep, THE, CITYNEVRSLEEPS. They could reach me, my first and last name, Priscilla Echi at gmail.com. If you want to shoot me an email, I do respond back. And yeah, like I have my book, Turn Pain into Power. I have another series that's coming out, which is really exciting. So they can reach out to me through my Instagram or my Facebook, first and last name, Priscilla Echi. And yeah, that's it. I'm accessible. I am, and just don't come with I'm a wellness coach. Don't bring no bullshit, bad energy. Don't bring me that.
Remember who the fuck she is, basically.
Come on now. Listen, you ain't too far removed. I will still let you know about yourself, okay? I love you
real.
guys and all. This was a blessing. I appreciate you, King. I see you have your kid in the background. My peace and love to your family. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for having me on.
Happy New Year. Can I hold you for 1 second?
You can, absolutely.
Y'all, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Cards Face Up. Make sure you like and subscribe on all of our social medias. We have 2 YouTube pages because one of them had a problem, so I had to start a whole new one. But we are active on both of them. Both of them get great content. I'm telling you, y'all already know. Shout out to 2021 being over. We were voted and won the podcast of the year for Baltimore. So shout out for y'all again. I thank you. Follow us on all social media. Cards Face Up podcast on YouTube and Cards Face Up TV on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you go find Miss Priscilla Echi, anything that she's doing, because she's a wonderful person and you need to follow it. I guarantee you, she's finishing up mission after mission after mission and accomplishing a lot of things. So y'all stay tuned with her. Peace, love, blessings, all of that greatness. We thank y'all for tuning in.